To import the responses. So I forgot to import the responses, but I'm going to show you how to do that on your own because you can. And then we'll go from there. Okay. So, James, you there?
Yes, I am. I already started recording.
Okay, so we can start now. Oh, Derek's not here. Oh, I built him a toy. Yeah, okay. So before I ask you to bring up the last thing you built for class, I want you to bring up DesignWrite Studio. And I just want to show you how you can import stuff into your own version of this so you can bring it up to date. Hey, how you doing? So if you click on the share button, actually, no, you're not going to have the edit, are you? Have I ever given you the access to that spreadsheet? You've somewhere access to this spreadsheet, right? There, so search for Google Form for shared wiki submissions, or search. Yeah. So if you search for responses, you should be able to get access to this spreadsheet. And then you can do a file download as, which you now know how to do, to SLSX. So that's going to put it somewhere. And then you can go to the web version of the wiki and import. But first you better go to the control panel and make sure that you're importing shared wiki from the Google form, which you probably are because it should be set. And then you can import the most recent version, ignore the issues, and hit import. So now in your current version of DesignWrite Studio on your hard drive, you have access to all the shared things. So I created a shared wikis by author tiddler that you can navigate to. So you can use this to go and find the most recent thing you submitted. So this is the most recent thing that we have that you made in class. And it should be up to date with your most recent wiki, if everybody did that. So then you can kind of navigate through and find all the different things that people have made. And navigate through and find the most recent one that you submitted. And just visit that. And we'll take a look at that. And then I'll just go around the horn and ask you to describe it. And you don't have to necessarily join the meeting. I can just pull it up. But as you're talking about it, everybody else can be looking at it too. So it's a sort of a non-collaborative, collaborative exploration. So Ryan, what'd you build? Which one should we take a look at?
The last one I built was the Wicked. I did the table and I did I don't know if it's in the table yet.
Well, which one are you looking at that's in there? Everything's under Ryan, right? So the last one we have from you is reverse engineering Google News?
Yeah.
So no annotations or anything yet? Okay.
I have most of my annotations done.
You didn't? Okay.
I didn't want to submit that, so I was like completely done with
Oh, why?
I mean, I can submit it now.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and submit that now, and we'll come back to you. Chris, what's the last thing that you submitted? The bibliographic 402? I hate his background. He made it so like, oh, there we go. Sorry to deface your work. So what'd you do here? So he built annotations at paragraph level. Okay. One. Bunch more, right? And they all begin with annotation of. Do you have any place that you gather all your annotations?
Yeah.
What's that called? Do you know? It's an annotation. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Looking at this, without looking at the code, what would you guess that he used? How would you guess he built this? And then you can look at the code and be smart. Marcus, what did he do here to generate this? Probably. Yeah. Okay. What could we add to his annotation tiddler to show us the contents of his annotation if we wanted to see it right there? How would we do that? Yeah, Mickey? We already did titles. Now we want to see the contents of the text field. Pardon? Did I call you Mickey? Yeah, why'd I do that? You're Mickey. Mike. I was so close. Close. Sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah, don't. Mike. It's only like halfway through the semester. So there's somebody submitting that's. Who's Tristan? Okay. He submits. Anyway, yeah, it's like, God, do I know who Tristan is? Mike, how are we going to see the contents of his text field if we wanted to see it here? So we can transclude. So we're right. Pardon? Yeah, I got that right. Yeah. How would we, Steve, if we wanted to make his annotation tiddler more interactive for our readers so that they could see the title and say, oh, I want to read that, and then engage in a behavior by clicking, touching, right? So it's on a phone, on your phone or your tablet, it's a touch. On your laptop, it's a click. What would we do?
What exactly are you trying to do?
So we want to be able to click on this
From the annotation.
right here with.
Okay.
So what we can do. Hey, so Tristan.
Correct.
Chris, that's close. Yeah.
No, I said correct.
Correct. I just said Tristan. I haven't seen Tristan for a while. Yeah. So
I've been doing work behind the
yeah, I know. I was like, wait a second. No, it's fine. That's fine. So what this does is this moves us to that tiddler. But what if we didn't want to build a link to it? We just wanted to reveal the contents. We wanted to transclude the contents. So we did that. We transcluded it. Right. I want to make that visible sometimes and not other times. Yeah, what's that called? We called it stretch text. It's called a reveal. You see it all sorts of places in DesignWrite, like here. Right, so we reveal. How do we do that? Anybody built something like this yet? Anybody done this? This is cool. It's called Appear. Let's look at the What's New Tiddler. What's it called? I think it's called New at DesignWrite. Showing what's new. So it's this one. Anybody written Appear? So Appear's cool. So it's a plugin. So you can find it there. So we've already got it in DesignWrite, but I'll drag it over to Chris's. Pardon? Is Appear in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I used it on a different.
Oh, okay. So that's about as simple as it could be. I'm going to put a BR after the last Appear so that the next one shows up on the line. I'm going to take this BR off so that the shows up right next to it. And there. That's kind of cool. So you can add that kind of stuff. Yeah. Good. So that's a good start. Julian, what was the last one that you built that we should look at? Okay, did you move on to the annotator yet? Not quite. Okay.
I did, I don't know.
Okay, you didn't share it yet. Okay, so you're doing the table of contents, multiple paragraphs?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the mountains?
No.
No.
I don't know.
This is
I did the mountain one.
the engineering table. It came in as tables, but
No, I have, it's not up there.
okay. Yeah,
And then we also worked on one where I had the two different for the hypertext.
right, but you didn't share that yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric, we haven't looked at one of yours lately. What are you working in?
I haven't posted anything. I've been working on it.
Okay. Got to share the stuff, otherwise I can't keep up. All right. Derek, did you see the present I made for you?
The code you sent me?
I made a edit text box for Derek. Did you see this?
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. So this is in the group. Anybody play with this thing? So Eric asked a question in the group about how'd you frame it?
I wanted to try and make like a text box so you can input like two numbers and the numbers would make its own shape. That's what I'm trying to do.
So this box might be like the size of a square, say 15.
Yeah.
And then you'd have another one that would have a different, but even if you just had this 15 and then it should draw a square here with, okay, yeah. So do you see how this gets you pretty close to that?
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is we've got a tiddler called Edit Text Box for Derek. It's got this little text box. I can put anything I want in here. And here we're just calling the timestamp. And if you watch the timestamp, every time we press the key, it updates. Okay, so what's happening inside this program? Steve, you were asking, I think, about stuff like this a little bit. And in last night's workshop, James was asking about why his different table of contents were populating, two different things were populating at the same time. It's like this, there's an internal engine in here in a sense. So every time you press a keystroke or touch something, the whole program refreshes. And here we're just displaying the modified time of the tiddler. So naturally that refreshes every time you put something in there. And it becomes the most recent text tiddler. So if we display that tiddler, we can delete its contents. So we're sort of typing in another tiddler, which is kind of weird if you think about it. Why would this be useful? So Derek's idea of building an interactive text, he was just going to start with a square. He can let his reader render a square or a drawing live. So now you've built like a live engine. Pretty simple live engine that readers can interact with and change the thing that they're looking at. Any generic pieces of software product that effectively do that? Games, right? So you could use this technique to help you build the beginnings of a game if you wanted to. So that's cool. Marcus, what have you built lately?
The last thing that's on there is
The annotation, okay. So okay, great. So tell us what you did here.
I just split them up between paragraphs and I used just the brackets around them to do the annotations.
So your paragraph 1, is this your text or is this text from somewhere? Okay. And so you bracketed, and then when we click on the brackets, what do we see? Definitions? Yeah, okay. And is this your writing?
Yes.
The definitions, okay. So I'm not concerned at this phase. I just wanted you to sort of, because you know what you're doing. How are we going to be able to begin to differentiate what Marcus wrote and what someone else wrote? Because what you're doing now is you're basically doing a mashup. So Marcus is building a mashup on somebody else's text. Perfectly fine, but how do we want to begin to differentiate so we see that we know exactly what Marcus's value added is, what his work is, and what work he's building on? Any ideas for how we do that? Anybody solve that challenge in their work? You must have begun to say, well, this looks an awful lot like what I've been told not to do in my whole life, right? So you're like, it begins to feel like it's hard to see the boundaries between your words and other people's words. Put quote marks around it, but that's pretty, yeah. What would be one way to do it visually? And how's Marcus doing it organizationally and structurally? So this one's yours, and this one's not. So let's get to paragraph 1. Let's get more specific. So this tiddler is not yours. This tiddler is yours. Okay. Anything? All of these are yours?
I think so.
Probably, right?
Yeah, there might be some definitions that are just copied.
Okay, so that might be, so you might, as you begin to use this as a tool for writing college level papers or professional papers, or especially in college where you're called upon to differentiate your work from others, then we want to, as writers, make it really clear to our readers what we wrote and what we, what's the word for it? What we transcluded, what we took, what we started with, what we plagiarized, what we copied, what we built on, right? So any one of those things. So, especially if you keep them separate by tiddlers. So tiddlers with a certain tag begin to represent work that was done by Marcus. Or any tiddlers with a tag means I did that. That's a really good organizational structure because it uses the structure of TiddlyWiki and the architecture of TiddlyWiki to help you keep track of that. So if you do it at the tiddler level, it gives you a lot of flexibility. What could we do for the readers so it would be really clear to the readers who don't really necessarily know what tiddlers are and maybe never will encounter a tiddler in that sense? How could we alert readers to the ideas that some of this stuff is written by Marcus, some of this stuff is written by others? Yeah.
You change like the sliding name.
The editing name?
Yeah.
Well, so this tiddler, they're all going to be created by Marcus. So he's already got them tagged, right? So we know which they are. How could we make them visually distinctive? We could color code what? We could color code the tags. We could begin to put background colors in the tiddlers. Anybody explored colors in tiddlers? Yeah, it's a little funky. It's there, but if anybody wants to ask and say, how do I change the background color of a tiddler? I'll show you how to do that. It's a couple of lines of code like everything else in the world. In DesignWrite, we have that yellow highlight macro. That we could drag over. And we could put all of Marcus's quotes in yellow, and maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. That should work. Oh, I have to save it and reload it. That should work. I think I can't reload it because I don't own it, but he can do it, right? So we could begin to think about that as you differentiate your work from others and differentiate it visually, background colors, fonts, sizes. You could use a template to make that tiddler look different. So you've got all sorts of different techniques. So that's a really good start. But now we want to keep pushing a little forward, and I'll explain some of that in the example. Thanks. I don't know why that macro doesn't work, but it will work. Cool. Okay. We'll keep doing that. Anybody have specific questions or things that they've been trying to do that they want to show us that we might be able to resolve? Okay. Let me start and stop, James, and then I'll